found the Foundation for Amateur Radio in 1957, which handles our YLRL scholarships, among many others, and she served as a trustee, an officer, or an editor of their publication, Auto Call, every year for several decades. Ethel was an NTS traffic handler, and she was a section emergency coordinator for Virginia for 3 years in the 60s. Can you believe all this? And there's more. A life member of ARRL, she was an assistant director for 7 years. Active in QCWA, she served as executive secretary and as a director. She was an active member of the Washington Radio Club, where she organized training classes. She and Liz, W3CDQ, of whom you'll hear a little bit more later on, volunteered, I'm sorry, I lost my place. They volunteered each week and had 12 to 15 new licensees in the first few months. And while she was doing all this volunteer work in amateur radio, she was working for the Department of the Navy in intelligence and in electronics. She worked for the U.S. Army as a telegrapher at the Presidio and at Fort Douglas in Utah during World War II. She later worked for the U.S. Naval Research Lab in Washington, D.C., and was active in both the Navy Reserve, there she is, and Navy Mars after the war with the call NCRO-ABO. Every organization that she was involved with recognized her contributions with plaques and or certificates, and she was named Ham of the Year many times, including here at the Dayton Hamvention in 1984. I might add that Ethel held a 30 word per minute CPC code proficiency certificate, and she was always active on the air, mostly CW in the earlier days. In later days, she cared for her 100-plus-year-old mother and her husband Tex, W4TE, in her home until they passed away. She participated regularly in YLRL and QCWA contests, among others. Ethel wrote beautiful poetry, and she always kept in very close touch with her many, many friends. She organized the 1982 YLRL convention, and we had attendees from 36 states and 9 DXYLs from Bermuda, England, Germany, Holland, India, and Japan. She also served as YLRL Circulation Manager. She was our first scholarship chairman, and she oversaw the reprinting of CQYL in 1994. This is my favorite photo of Ethel, and it was the cover of the May 1953 issue of CQ. She never shied away from technology, and she was the one who convinced me to try email way, way back in the day when Juno was my only option. And these are just some of the highlights of Ethel's life, but it needs to be said that she was extremely modest. She had so much integrity. She was so intelligent and had a very warm and outgoing personality. She was totally unselfish and always ready to help in any way needed. And you could tell that she was a very well-rounded ham. On her own, she serves as a role model that all of us should try to emulate. And this is an early picture of Ethel and Tex at their home. They each had their own stations. And there were many other remarkable early YLRL members. Enid Carter, W9MBX, later W6USF, really organized YLRL. She wrote the draft constitution, which was approved in October 1939. She selected the first officers, and she set the dues at 25 cents a year. She also, as all good YLRL members do, compiled a list of other YLs who might want to join YLRL, and she sent them letters which brought in many new members from the very beginning. Loretta Insur, 9UA, W9UA /W0UA, was licensed in 1923 when she was in high school in Olathe, Kansas. And she responded to Ethel's letter in the July 1939 QST. Her brother Marshall, W9BSP, stroke later W9BSP, taught woodworking in her high school, and he built a beautiful rig that was located in front of a bay window in their farmhouse kitchen. And she told me that Marshall used to get mad at her for getting flour on the radio in the mornings when she was making biscuits and contacts at the same time. Loretta is said to be the first YL voice to be heard across the Pacific. She and Marshall taught code and theory classes on 160 meters from 1929 until 1941, when they had to close down during World War II. And they helped thousands of hams get their licenses during those years. This massive effort was recognized by the Paley Award, which was presented by William S. Paley of CBS at an ARRL convention in Chicago. Lenore Kingston, W9CHD, better known as Lenore Jensen, W6NAZ, was a model and a famous radio actress on 4 radio shows. Reportedly, one of these was Ma Perkins, sponsored by Oxidol, which is where the name soap opera originated. She also answered Ethel's plea in QST after she was introduced to amateur radio in 1939 by the engineers on the sets, who were mostly hams. Lenore later had parts in many TV shows: Father Knows Best, Beverly Hillbillies, Dragnet, Leave It to Beaver, The Twilight Zone, The Donna Reed Show, General Hospital, and several others, and she appeared in 4 movies. But one of her most outstanding contributions was to found the American Women's Volunteer Services, which taught CW for the U.S. Navy during World War II. She held a 35-word per minute CPC and was a traffic handler when she was first licensed, with traffic handling comprising about 30% of her on-air activities. She was also noted for her phone patches for U.S. military personnel from 1955 through the Vietnam War, helping tens of thousands of GIs to talk back home, sometimes from combat zones. Lenore was charming and persuasive, and she promoted amateur radio ceaselessly, even getting celebrities such as Bob Hope and Dick Van Dyke to do public service announcements. On July 26, 1961, the TV show This Is Your Life surprised Lenore with a profile of her many good works. She was recognized with an award for special achievement at the Dayton Hamvention in 1983, and after her death in 1993, she was inducted into the CQ Hall of Fame. She completed a fantastic book entitled Inside Amateur Radio before she became a silent key in 1993, and World Radio published it in 1995. Now remember, these are just some of her many accomplishments. And this is Ethel and Lenore at the 1982 YLRL convention in Washington, D.C. That's Ethel on the left and Lenore on the right. Now there are brief profiles of 4 of YLRL's first members, but all of those early members have stories, and they help make it possible for us to be enjoying our hobby and friendships right now. The other 8 YLs who replied to Ethel's famous letter in QST were W1 GQT, Lyda King, W5 HYF, Jean Doss, W6 RGX, Genevieve Capstaff, W7 GXI, Marjorie Fraser, W8 SBB, Mary Stocking, W9 NLW, Jean Burkhead, W9 WWP, and later W6 WSB was Carol Keating Witt, and the E2 Ethel Pick. Another early member was Liz Sandolini, who I mentioned just a little bit earlier, who earned a commercial, get this, she earned a commercial radio license while she was still in high school because she wanted to become a shipboard operator. But World War I foiled her plans. So Liz used her training to teach radio to wounded veterans in Army hospitals at Fort Meade and Fort McHenry for rehabilitation as a member of the Women's Radio Corps. In 1922, she got her amateur license and was on the air on CW with a straight key for almost every day of her life for 67 years until she died in 1989. She and Nell Corey, G2YL, met on the air, and in 1932, Liz traveled to England to meet her, which is the first intercontinental YL to YL meeting that I know about. She was the 5th president of YLRL and was a worldwide ambassador of goodwill, as she spoke several languages fluently. Liz traveled in some high circles. This is an undated photo of members of the Washington Radio Club shown with President Roosevelt. They are presenting him with inaugural congratulatory messages from hams in 39 states and territories. In turn, FDR thanked them and their fellow hams for the valiant service they had rendered in providing communications during a recent flood. And this is Liz with the president of the American Red Cross. And here she is. Oh, that's not her. Now how am I going to get back? I don't know where Liz and President Truman went. Here we go. Here we go. Roosevelt. This is the Red Cross. Go back one more. Uh-huh. There it is. Uh-huh. Did I skip one of those? Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, sorry. Okay, but she was with 2 presidents and the president of the American Red Cross. Okay. Now, we know that Dorothy Hall, W2IXY, was a very early YLRL member because Enid appointed her the first 2nd District Chairman in 1939. Dorothy was on the air one day, and she answered a distress call from Pitcairn Island. It was from the descendants of the Bounty on Pitcairn, where they were at the point of starvation. She contacted the British Admiralty, and a ship with food was dispatched to save them from starvation. Years later, we had 3 YLRL members from Pitcairn who were VR6IC, VR6KY, and VR6YL. And I used to work them in a YLRL contest, but I never thought to ask them if they had ever heard about Dorothy. I wish I had more facts to share with you about Louisa B. Sando, W5RZJ, because we are so indebted to her for preserving so much of the history of YLs in the YL column that she wrote for CQ magazine for many years, and for her wonderful book, CQYL, first published in 1958. In 1940, she worked in the editorial department of ARRL, and she soon developed an interest in ham radio. She was licensed in 1943 while she was assistant to the editor of QST, and later became assistant editor of CQ magazine in 1947. She started writing the YL column in August 1947. Louisa and Harriet Barker, W6QGX, attended every YLRL convention for as long as they were able, at least up until 1993, which is the last one that was recorded in YLRL. And this is Harriet in the middle, and Louisa on the right. That was at the 1993 convention in Wichita. And the first YL net that I know about was on 3.610 megahertz. It was in January of 1940, and there were plans to start a second net on 7.220 megahertz on this, so the same crystal could be used. Both were CW. Esther Davis, W9EFW, started a phone YL net on 160 meters in October 1941, which met at 0430 Eastern Standard Time. It avoided a lot of QRM, but it was a little hard to get everybody up and on the frequency. It was forced to close early in 1942. Many nets began operating later, but the two that survived longest were the YL Tangle Net and the YL Open House, both on 20 meters. How many of you have checked into one or both of these nets? They were all great fun. They were great fun. YL Tangle Net started in the early 50s, and it received its name from the net controller, who was Mary Meyer, W9RUJ, in 1956. Mary had YLs checked in from across the country, and she was battling bad conditions and QRM when she asked the YL to take over this, quote, tangle net, while she went to find some aspirins. Marty Wessel, K0 EPE, took over the net in the 50s, and with help from other YLs through the years, has tamed it and kept it going until she became a silent key. And this is the same Marty who served as the past YLRL president and who organized the 1968 YLRL convention in Denver, where a red 1968 Mustang, complete with a mobile rig, was given away as a grand prize. And she not only served as scholarship chairman, but she organized scholarship drives at YLRL conventions, which were instrumental in allowing YLRL to give away 2 scholarships each year. And I'm so happy to tell you that in 2014, the Marty Wessel K0 EPE Scholarship was established to honor her efforts, which was announced at our last convention in Washington. Harriet Woes K5 BUJ started YL Open House in 1959 and was the first net control. Irma Weber K6 KCI was with the net from its beginning, and she served as NCS from 1961 to 1968 and from 1971 until about 8 years ago when she had to give it up. She wrote a short history of the net on its 25th anniversary and said that, quote, many close friendships have developed from contacts made on the frequency, and many YL contests and conventions have been spurred on by the enthusiasm of the net participants. And I know this is true. This is Marty in the blue, and that's Irma in the white shirt. They both just did tremendous duty as net controls, and we used to have, I can't even tell you how many. We used to have lots and lots of check-ins. Maybe 20, 30 check-ins were just a normal thing. And this picture was taken in 1996 in Albany at the YLRL convention. There are so many other YLRL members who should be recognized. Beth Taylor, W7NJS, was an early president and was a fantastic membership chairman for many years. She was an unparalleled recruiter, and she did so much to help YLRL through her correspondence with members around the world. Mary Lou Brown, NM7N, was a wonderful YLRL president who organized several YLD expeditions, and her generosity also helped to fund our scholarship funds. One is named in her honor. Esther Gibbons, W6BDE, is noteworthy for her wartime service in WW2, as well as her many years of active participation in YLRL. Other YLs that I remember dearly who have contributed so much are Blanche Randalls, W4GXZ, Odie Woodward, W1ZEN, Phyllis Shanks, W2GLD, Leah Slack, WA2NFY, Darlene Megan, WD5FQX, and many of our DX members have contributed so much. There are many current members who have also made great contributions, but I'm thinking of the old days right now in our early history. Do you have other names? Who else can you think of that should be added? Anybody? Oh, okay. Well, it's hard to describe the special bond that YL share, but I know you've all felt it. And I feel blessed to have made so many dear friends in YLRL who have truly enriched my life. We owe these early members so much for making it all possible. Could we just share a moment of silence for these early YLs on silent keys? Thank you very much. You've been a great audience.
The Australian Ladies Amateur Radio Association has a node on Echolink which is dedicated to YL operators. And there are YLs on frequently at random times as well as for men. It starts at 8 p.m. on Thursday nights. That's Eastern time. So what time zone are you in? Okay, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Could you repeat the node letters?
ALARA. Also, you can find out this information on ylrl.org, where you can find out information about the organization and activities, nets. And I don't want to be the only talking person up here, so.
I got a question. Yeah, no, just what I said earlier about contests and DXing. I did understand the question was about a technician license, but Andrea and I have been doing roving on VHF, which you can do with a technician license.
So there's a lot of different opportunities. It's not a one-dimensional option, that's for sure. So, is there anybody who didn't get a ticket yet? Blue for the members and pink, red, whatever color it is for the non-members. Any other questions, concerns, or comments somebody wants to make? Yes, ma'am, from Australia.
I'm Diane, BK4DI, and I happen to be the ALARA publicity officer and also the coordinator for the 2000. No, I don't need that. I've got a voice that carries.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay.
From absorb sound.
Okay, I'll start again. I'm Diane, BK4DI. I'm the ALARA publicity officer. I also write the ALARA column for the Australian Amateur Radio magazine. I've only been doing that for a short time and I've got to write one while I'm away. And I'm also the coordinator for this year's ALARA meet. And the ALARA meet this year is in beautiful tropical Cairns, Queensland, from the 8th to the 11th of September. We've got a fantastic program, so if anybody wants to make a trip to VK, get on the alara.org website, www.alara.org.au. You'll find out when our nets are on, the information on the ALARA node as well, and also information on our upcoming ALARA contest. I happen to be the contest manager as well. I wear a few hats. And the ALARA contest is always on the last weekend in August, and it's YL to YL, and we'd love to have some more DX YLs get on in the contest. It's a 24-hour contest. It's on HF and on Echolink, which is most unusual, but if anybody wants to get on and make some DX contacts that weekend for, to contact Australia, well, I'll be on. And the other thing that I'm going to announce, and it's the first time it's been announced outside of Australia, from the 1st of July until the 31st of September, we have a special event call sign, Victor Italy, number 4, ALARA. So if you hear VI4 ALARA, you'll probably hear me, because I'm the custodian. You'll probably hear the 2 girls I'm mentoring in our local area, because I'm going to get the girls on, and it'll all be run out of VK4. If you want to work CW, I'm sure Lynn VK4 SWE will be, I think some of you probably know Lynn. Lynn will be our CW op for those 3 months. So that's enough from me.
Thank you. And just a point of clarification on the Echolink, you have to look at the node list, NODE list on Echolink to find ALARA. It's not just the
Hello. My name is Cheryl. I'm November 0 whiskey, beer, and vodka. Okay, so I'm the alcoholic, but it does get through in a pileup, and they are awful call letters sometimes otherwise. I am the publicity chairwoman and the editor of Royal Harmonics for YLRL. So please send your district chairs news and pictures. What we really want to do is show what all of the women are doing all around the world, and that is one of the things that we need you for, because without your news, we can't produce a wonderful magazine 5 times a year plus the directory edition. So I am also going to ask all of the YLs at the end of this meet here too to step together. We're going to find a wall. We always get a YL forum picture at the end of the YL forum for Hamvention, and that's something just to show how many ladies do come to Dayton, and that some of us are actually licensed too. Now, for those of you who are not licensed yet, you can also be a subscriber to YLRL and maybe get some incentive to see what the other gals are doing and find out what makes it so much fun for us, so that you want to get your license and join us as well. So we would love to have you. And so at the end of the meeting, all the ladies, I'm not sure where there's a blank wall, so probably over there I would guess is the best area. Well, we got this too, so. So please send news and pictures to your district chairs. That's their main thing, is to get our magazine going and show exactly what everyone else is doing. And as with Andrea and Rhea, the roving, it's something that you might not know that you wanted to do, is contesting, roving. We've got great ways to take little baby steps to get involved. So, and don't forget Field Day this year. There are not only a lot of YL groups, but there's a lot of YLs needed, especially because the YL voice on sideband really can cut through. And so if you've got a YL operator in your Field Day group, they can make you a lot of contacts. So kids and YLs get through in a pilot. So please participate. And if you haven't stopped by the booth to sign in our guest book, please come join us at 6510, and we hope to see you there.
I just make another comment about Field Day. You don't have to have a general license to be on Field Day. You don't even have to have a license to help out on Field Day. You could go with a group and use whatever station license they're using for their Field Day station. I think that as I look at it, that this wall that does not have windows in it would be a better choice for a photo, because the windows will mess up the picture. So we'll go stand in front of that door. I'm looking at the time. We want to have the drawing, and we want to have time for the picture, and we're supposed to be out of here in 15 minutes. So, really, any more questions? Anybody have some comments, something they want to share, something that's going on in where the club they're involved in, or
Any ladies missing a
personally?
ticket?